Oh, hello, everybody.
Greetings, everybody. Welcome to First World Third Rails. Your host here, Marlon Taylor, aka Mayhem, aka Mr. Disruptive, with his co-pilot JD, also known
Welcome,
as JD.
JD.
How you doing, brother?
I'm fine. Top of the world to you.
Top of the world, and happy Memorial Day weekend, man. Long weekend.
And
We
the
love our
down.
3-day weekends here in the US. To my Canadian, in fact, over my shoulder, in keeping with my beginning of summer theme and summer vacation spots, although this really isn't a summer vacation spot, but a shout out to my neighbors of the north. You know from our many conversations that I am literally 60 minutes from the border of Canada, British Columbia.
So you can make a
And
run for it.
I can make a run for it if I have to. Over my shoulder here, let me give you the beautiful part. Over my shoulder here is one of the most beautiful places
It looks gorgeous.
on the planet. Bush Art Gardens in Victoria, Canada.
Could you say it again slowly?
Bush Art Gardens.
Bouchard. Bouchard.
Butchard.
Bouchard.
O-R-T.
C'est français, je pense.
It is an absolutely beautiful place, no matter
It looks
what.
magnificent.
It is. The whole place is just this huge botanical gardens on steroids that has nothing but beauty.
Looks like my yard.
So when you go to Vancouver/Victoria, Victoria is just a little kind of like Puget's House, like a little inlet off of Vancouver. When you go up there are two places, listeners, viewers out there who are still listening or viewing us. There are two places when you go to British Columbia, Victoria, and Vancouver that you must have on your list. Bush Art Gardens is one. High tea at noon at the Empress Hotel in Vancouver is the other.
High tea at noon.
Yes, I can be refined at different times. I can be vulgar with the maggots, but I can also be refined and have high tea at the Empress.
All right. So it's 12:30 in Virginia, and I'm having, I guess this would be considered low tea. Actually,
Low tea.
let me show you what I'm doing.
What are you doing?
So what I do is when I do tea, I like green tea and I like black tea. So Shazam.
Mix them up.
Yeah. I found these Newman's Own 100% profits go to charity. So
Oh, that's nice. I, as you know, am in the Pacific Northwest, the very warm today Pacific Northwest. And it's only 9:30 here, so I'm still having coffee because I broke curfew last night and stayed up well past my bedtime on a Thursday night.
With the youngins, did you?
Yeah, we're paying for it today.
So what third rail are we going to touch today?
I'd like to touch on one that we did not get the opportunity or time to touch on yesterday. And I am usually when we touch on third rails, I know you know this. I am very spirited, to say the least, when we touch on certain topics that touch that third rail. Today, I'm elated to touch on it. I am very, very pleased, as you know, because we talked about this briefly yesterday to tee up today. I am very pleased to see that the Proud Boys are being handed out very significant jail time.
30 years for two people.
One moron already on Twitter today called out and said this is an abuse of power or whatever the hell he was crying about. I'm like, look, let me make this simple, even for a moron like you. If you break the law in this country, you go to jail. Now, we still
Not
have
if your cause is just.
Yeah, that's just all right.
He answers to a higher authority. I'm just sure.
Yeah. Well, Proud Boy founder is going to answer to
a higher authority. Yeah.
Actually, a higher authority.
So that is fantastic news. And it just stands alone No need to burden it with anything else, just
Nope,
appreciate it in its magnificence. 18 and 12 years.
yes, respectively, yes.
You know, if I
Which,
went to jail for 18 years, I'd be dead in jail.
yeah, so would
How
I.
old is this guy?
He's got to be in his what, 40s, 50s, 50s?
Yeah, he looked pretty old.
Yeah.
He's only got
Um,
one. So
and 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 I want to make sure anybody listening to us understands why I'm elated, why this pleases me so much. It's not rightfully so they're going to prison. That's our justice system working. But more significantly and more importantly, it's a symbol of democracy working. This is how democracy works. If you try to overthrow it, you go to jail.
it's inarguable.
It is. Well, except for 38%, it's an
Well, in a
argument.
parallel universe, if Trump had won again, none of this would be happening. So
No, he would, and if he
there are a
did,
lot of good there are a lot of good things that went into this.
yes, yes.
So what's your third rail? Because we spent a lot of time. I kind of got I went back and I revisited what I said yesterday, and I got lost. But I feel like I was milling around something of consequence. But what subject did you want to address today?
Oh, that's not really a third rail, but January 6th to me is a third rail high level. And the results of yesterday's decisions in the court are so, I almost liken this January 6th, and give me some latitude here, to 9/11. And let me explain. People here in the Pacific Northwest, and I've said from day one, I think this is one of the contributing factors that that led to ultimately the divorce from my son's mom, because I felt like she just really never understood, her and others never understood the impact of 9/11 to me. In other words, and we've seen this, right? If you're not there, if it doesn't wash up on your doorstep, there's a percentage of people who just, they have no connection to it, so it doesn't impact them the same way. 9/11 will scar. I am scarred from 9/11 like many, forever, for a number of reasons. Obviously, DC being a part of it, the United 93 flight, which is a flight I've flown many, many times in business travel. Tony's at that time fiance was a flight attendant for United. So there are many connections, uh, and spokes, if you will, that I had to 9/11 that led to that overall impact, other than just being a decent human being and witnessing what we witnessed on that day. January 6th is very much like that to me. I don't think people understand the significance of the impact to me as I watched that horror unfold that day. And again, a lot of tethers into that building, that location, everything. The
Through
sergeant
your
of
dad,
arms,
right? Through your father.
my father, the sergeant of arms of the United States Senate, was one of my top clients. The United States Senate was one of my top clients when I worked back in the Virginia area. So it to watch that unfold really had an impact on me. And that impact got exasperated by the fact that I know we have two judicial systems, hence Colin Kaepernick taking a knee, because we all know Marlon's a what's the word I'm looking for?
He's not
Nostradamus. Marlon's Nostradamus again.
okay.
We all know. Okay, maybe we all don't, but Marlon knows what would have transpired that day had that been Black Lives Matter versus MAGA. I know
guess-
how
I
that
think
would
it's
have
a fair
unfolded.
assessment. It would have been a different state of affairs.
A very different state of affairs. And so you got
First of all, the Black Lives Matter folks would have been a lot more cordial.
true, true, true.
I mean, I participated in one of those, and everybody was very, very pleasant, and it was actually low key. I mean, there was chanting and everything, but there was no.
We proved that in the summer of 2020 behind George Floyd and all the protests behind George Floyd. Now, were there facets that took advantage of that? Yes. And I think those are the same facets that, here in Seattle, thank God it has not, it has not transpired in the last few years, I would want to say, where May 1st, anarchists in the Pacific Northwest come together and they protest corporation greed. And it has turned ugly. It has turned violent. It has
So
turned.
that's an annual thing.
It was an annual thing every May 1st.
Oh, so they have like a meetup group, and they're like, May 1st, be there, anarchy.
Be there. We're going to protest the corporations and their greed.
Well,
and
I'm down with protesting corporations. And
I used to work for a cloud service provider downtown, who I won't name them, but our data center operations were literally where the hub of the internet is located in the Western Hemisphere, which is the Westin building, data center building, downtown Seattle. That's where our data center operations were. And I remember I had a meeting scheduled down there, and I come out of our building and it's only a couple block walk
is this
away.
May 1st?
This is on May 1st.
Okay, because you're starting to fractal, big guy.
I'm sorry.
From
I'm sorry.
9/11 to January 6th. From New
And
York
all-
to DC,
and
now
all
we're in
of those-
Seattle on May 1st. Okay.
All of those have tethers together, right? And I brought up May 1st because, again, to your point that you were making, Black Lives Matter would have been far more cordial on January 6th than MAGA.
Yeah.
And civilized. Yeah. So, I walked out to go down to my data center operations, and I can immediately smell tear gas. So that told me there are riots downtown Seattle, and that hasn't happened for the last 2, 3, 4 years, which is a good thing. Because people, I think, realize, one, there are no more corporations downtown Seattle; they've all moved out. But two, there's a different way to get your message across, right? And Black Lives Matter is an example of that, where MAGA is the opposite of that on January 6th. So to bring that full circle,
Well, they got their message across, which was we're a bunch of
idiots.
thank you. We don't appreciate what we have.
Different I word.
So you actually floated something. Actually, you did it. Woohoo. I want to go back to the September 11th, January 6th affected you the same way. I don't know if you want to talk about how it affected your relationship. How does it all come together in the present tense?
I'm sorry.
How does it all come together? In
having been so impacted by what I bore witness to, this to me is part of the healing process to see sentences like I saw yesterday.
Amen. Yes, true.
Because my first thought on January 7th, 2021, is that they would never be held accountable.
I mean, I see a lot of hands raised. Everybody was like, crap, we're just going to have the same issue with these people that we've had with Trump.
Yes.
So he is the exception that proves a rule, thank God.
Yes. So it is therapeutic and healing to see that, no, we're going to, now, not everybody who should be held accountable is being held accountable, but we're working through the process.
Do you derive any satisfaction from the fact that I I don't know if any blacks were in that January 6th crowd. There may have been some small number, but all of these people are just white bread. So
Yep,
does that,
yep.
that has to be reassuring. I'm hoping that's reassuring as well.
It is.
I mean, for Colin Kaepernick, Colin should be like, well, good.
Yeah, yeah. I'm sure that if the research, and I'm sure the research, because there's thousands and thousands and thousands of hours of video footage that being combed through to identify and charge these people. I'm sure there's probably less than 1% that's probably black, but I just make that assumption because historically, when
I
it
haven't
comes,
seen any come across the screen.
no, and historically, when it comes to MAGA, I've seen multiple instances at their rallies, for example, where they'll have a booth set up that's labeled "Blacks for Trump," and they're nothing but white people with T-shirts saying "Blacks for Trump."
Well, you actually have run-ins with your nemesis. It's
Yeah,
plural,
my nemesis.
which is our Black MAGA supporters.
Yes.
So something happened when you opened up this discussion today, but I don't want to interrupt. Did you
Oh
complete?
no. Yeah, I'm. You know, the to bring full circle was the healing process of the sentencing that we're witnessing.
All right. So what I was
Now, not everybody who should be held accountable, because there are people, let's be honest, there are people sitting in Congress right now who enabled and abetted what transpired that day and are not being held accountable. And we know why. But
yeah, they deleted all the texts.
they deleted all the texts.
Yeah, if we could get the FBI's texts and all those things.
Marlon again, Mr. Nostradamus. I know who the DC pipe bomber is. We all do. We all know. Yes. Yes. We know who it is. We know who it is.
All right. So what I was going on about yesterday, and I didn't arrive at a destination.
That's all right. Sometimes we don't.
Well, we rarely arrive at a destination. But it was like yada, 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 way to coexist. And then what I was advancing was this concept of, and I'm going to use a different analogy. If a tree falls in the forest, is there any sound? So this is where this is my entry point. So if you have a forest eastbound of progressives, and you have a forest westbound of conservatives, right?
Right.
So that's a MAGA forest. In this case, if a tree falls in the MAGA forest, does it make a sound? And I'm going to argue that it does not. In other words, if you express your opinion to somebody who agrees with your opinion, there's no transfer.
Okay.
There's no friction. There's no intersection. It's literally a nothing burger. If
it's unity,
it goes,
it's unity. You got two people with the same view and perspective. It's unity.
It's unity, but the point is that there's no conflict. And if you look at any type of, story or movie, you've got to have conflict. In other words, if you don't have conflict, you don't have action. Almost all action derives from conflict.
Okay.
Unless it's a two-man bicycle or a two-person's bicycle or something. So
okay.
Where I was trying to go yesterday, and I'm going to set off on this journey again, I'll probably get lost again, was that if a tree falls in the MAGA forest and you're in the progressive forest, that it makes no sound. In other words, you only hear, or you only have kindling if a MAGA tree falls in a progressive forest. So the idea here, the thing that I was trying to find was a way to coexist where I wasn't losing cycles or energy to MAGAs,
right?
And I wasn't empowering them. And you said something. Did you say something about a tweet this morning? Have you already engaged with a MAGA dude?
Yeah.
Okay. So how did he get to you?
He's on my feed.
Well, you said there are two types of feeds. There are feeds of people that you follow.
Right.
And then there's an algorithmic feed, right?
Which is for you.
It's called FOR space YOU, for you.
Correct. Correct.
And that is Twitter's opinion of what you should see.
Correct.
Now, yesterday, I was listening very closely to you, and you said that your For You algorithmically delivered feed was increasingly populated with what?
MAGA.
Maggots. So I was really intrigued by this because this concept of the two separate camps, algorithmically, there's a recognition that there's nothing happens, there's no interest unless there's conflict. Are we agreed? In other words, this is kind of the basic bedrock of social media.
Yeah.
And I'm assuming in your For You feed, that's where all your promoteds are, or the majority of them are.
Yeah.
So you're getting advertisements in the midst of.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So I had a question for you, which is a logistics question, and I don't know the answer.
All right.
If you wanted to block a maggot, M-A-G-A-T,
Mm-hmm.
if you wanted to block a maggot, can you pre-block a maggot?
Yes.
How would you pre-block somebody in Twitter?
I'm not sure what you mean by pre-block, but if
In other words, do they have to communicate with you before you can block them?
no,
How would you pre-block them? Is there a
I would
menu
just
entry?
yeah, there's a menu option to just go in and block them.
Okay, so based on the road that I started down yesterday, which was the concept of do unto others as you would have them do unto you. In other words, it's pretty clear that the whole MAGAT universe is discounting progressives and liberals. We're anti-democratic. We want to turn all our kids gay. I mean, so they've dismissed us immediately. And if you're a person of color, they've absolutely positively dismissed you. So they've dismissed us. And what I was suggesting yesterday was that we were continually giving other human beings the benefit of the doubt, because we're like, what's a human being? We should hear what they have to say before we pass judgment. And I was opining that that was problematic, that we should stop waiting to hear what they have to say to pass judgment, and we should immediately block them. And there'd be two reasons. The first of which is we would avoid the angst and the pollution that's visited upon our person by these maggots.
Morons.
The other, I think, might be the more valuable one, which is if trees are falling in the maggot forest, we don't hear them.
Right.
And it's the same as if nothing happened. In other words, if they're preaching to themselves, I literally am no longer concerned with that. And that's been the big change. For a long period of time, I was like, logic and reason will prevail, and we will be able to find common ground. And it's like,
one of the problems with that, though, JD, is that they're not preaching to themselves. That certain MAGAs,
right, but they're reaching us through algorithms. You did not go out and follow those people, but they came to you through this algorithmically derived feed.
right?
And my question is, could we as progressives start to starve them of attention?
We should.
We could we, by doing it, by pre-blocking them, like would this be a service that could be offered, which is this is a list, and if you pre-block this list, let's say for purposes of discussion, 128. I tend to think on base 8, so like 64, 128, 256. So let's say you block these 128. These are the primary offenders. Can you pre-block them and start to heal your algorithmic feed? It's a question. I'm just asking a question.
In theory, yes. Because you could block anybody you want on Twitter. So in theory, yes. Here's why I do not do that. I want them to know that there's a voice here on this side that is diametrically opposed to everything they believe and think. So in doing that,
excellent conversation. Keep going with that.
In doing that, my goal, and a lot of the goals of people like Tara Dublin and Ellen Barkin, myself, and many, many, many others that are in the resistance, as we like to call ourselves, Our goal is to force them to block us before we block them.
I want to write that down. Our goal is to force them to block us before.
We wear that as a badge of honor.
Our goal is to force them to block us.
Because there are many on the left who tweet a screenshot of some significant MAGA, be in Congress or entertainment or wherever. Ron DeSantis has blocked you, and that's a badge of honor.
All right. Okay. So, as you know, I'm not social media savvy.
Right.
But I've accidentally tripped across something, and I have to pose a question. Did you
Hopefully I'll have an answer.
Did you just make that up?
No.
Okay. No. From where does that come? Is that a mantra that's available in a universe that I would see? In other words, if you're a true progressive, then you will understand the rallying cry, which is we want them to block us before we block them.
Yeah.
I've never heard that before. I haven't heard a lot of things.
The only exception to that is, and pardon me, I've got to go to my toolkit. The only exception I have to that is when in the initial engagement, you show me how ignorant you are, then I go, I'm not going to waste my time with you. You're blocked. I don't hear that tree anymore.
Okay. But you responded to this maggot this morning.
I did, and it was one of my chief nemesis. Okay. I'm not going to mention his name, but you know who he is. Who is a Trump MAGA, unlike any other.
Right? He's a black dude, right?
Yes.
Which makes him like a double I, like I cubed.
He is one of the MAGA voices now calling for the boycott of Target.
I don't think we have any listeners, which is okay. But I have to tell the listeners we don't have. This fascinates me. So may I trouble you to continue?
He was calling for Target and Bud Light. So they're keeping the Bud Light boycott alive. And I responded to him and I said, do you think Bud Light will care that you're going to boycott them? Everyone,
yes, they're going to care.
No, me and everyone on my
they're two
side
separate
of
things.
This was my tweet to him. I'm going to paraphrase because I'm not going to go look it up. But my paraphrase to him was, myself and everyone on this side of the fence knows as a houseboy, you don't even drink Bud Light. You take the scraps off a master's table. We already know this. We already know this. So go ahead with your little boycott Bud Light. We already know you're taking the scraps off master's table.
So I'm going to posit something again, not as an expert, but as a I'm curious about
out of curiosity.
If he couldn't reach you, wouldn't that be better? Like you never had that dialogue. He can't reach you. The tree falls in the MAGA forest and none of us hear it. In other words, I'm thinking it's only valuable to them if you get pissed.
Yes, but because of who he is, he has a significant platform that people hear that.
All right, so here's the drill. I would propose a service that pre-blocks, and he would be in that group of 100, let's say 100. So I don't know who he is, don't name who he is, but he was in that group of 100, and any progressive or normal person who didn't want to be providing him any feedback, they would be essentially released from bondage. I mean, that's basically what's going on.
If I blocked him,
Twitter is strapping you guys together. It's like when two people are handcuffed, you've got the criminal and the law enforcement dude, and they're handcuffed together. Twitter is handcuffing MAGAs.
Yes.
to
And,
us.
and to your point, we could decouple quickly by blocking, but that then permits the misogyny, the racism, the misinformation and lies. It does, because he'll
Yeah, but it's
continue.
only in that forest that all the
when
misogyny and the
you
lies and the racism
not when you
stay
have
in that forest.
not when you have a platform like that. Not when you're allowed to go on Fox News and say
That guy
Melania.
doesn't get on Fox News. The guy
Yeah,
you're
he has. Yeah,
oh.
yeah, he has. Yeah, he has. Yeah, he has. That's
Well,
what
anyway,
I mean.
but at least what I'm saying is I think you would minimize the damage. Now, this is a conversation which you and I have had literally thousands of.
Yep.
Where I'm not trying to change your mind.
No, I get
my
that. I get
opinion,
that.
and I'm trying to understand whether my opinion has any merit or
And
any.
to me, it does have merit, but for me personally, it's important for me to be a voice in the face of outright lies and misinformation. Opinion is one thing.
I'm gone, but I'll be back.
Uh-oh,
I'll be back.
he's coming back, ladies and gents.
You know, stupid.
So I'm sorry.
Sometimes when it freezes up on me, I'm going like.
I love that. I love that.
All right. So I want you, may I trouble you to repeat that? You were saying that
it's important for me personally
personally.
that there is a voice of resistance to outright lies, misinformation, racism, and misogyny.
Okay.
Because at the core of what this individual is are those four attributes.
Okay. Why is it important to you? Not a challenge. I'm asking because my perception of that situation is different.
It's important to me because I stand, and you know and have known me forever, I stand for truth, decency, and integrity.
Yeah, but if you give your truth and your decency to a maggot, it is just used as kindling. It's not.
I don't care what he uses it for.
Well, hold on. You can't. So you're willing to fight this fight, although you don't care how it's received? That's a minor challenge. I'm challenging you to reconcile those two. You feel like you're part of the resistance, but then you don't care what he does with it. So you're saying it's personally satisfying?
I care that I speak up for what I am seeing, which is racism, misogyny, bigotry, homophobia. I care that I care that I am a voice that stand at my age who stands up and says, I'm opposed to what you are pushing, what you are representing, what you are trying to turn this country into. I have no power except two things: my voice and my vote. So
all right, I don't think anybody would defend what I'm suggesting, but the only if somebody said, do you have any empirical evidence that we might need to consider an alternative method, I would say, yeah, the world as it is, because everybody's been bitching and moaning back and forth across their For You feed, right. And nobody's changing over there, and we're just getting exercised over here. And I would suggest, I would offer an opinion, I don't have empirical data to back this up, that every cycle spent carrying the battle to people that don't care is wasted. I'm not saying you're wasting your time, because there have been numerous occasions where I said, Marlon, thank you so much for representing our group, being part of the resistance. So I see it as a noble cause, but I'm not sure if it's a fruitful cause. And
standing up in the face of lies,
damaging.
Standing up in the face of lies and misinformation is a noble and worthy cause.
If there's a way to do it,
because we have to fucking get back to where truth, facts matter.
But we're not all going back there. Only some of us are going back there. The rest of us need to be marginalized and pushed to the edge and made harmless. In other words, what they want to do to people of color and progressives because we outnumber them, we have to actually attempt to do this to where they become the silent minority, because it's the silent majority if you include all the
And
people.
how do we silence them? We can't.
Well, I think we can. I think we have the power now to do it.
We have social
We
media,
do it by starving them out.
we have social media and state-run TV, which gives them voice and life.
Yeah, but they just talk to each other. It's not a problem. And then every time they come out in the open and they attack an institution, the DOJ puts them in jail. That's actually a good arrangement.
My houseboy nemesis goes on to Fox, and in large part, yes, he's speaking to MAGAs, but there are portions and percentages of that 62% who also watch Fox.
That is true. And you're coming to where I was trying to get to, and I appreciate it. So first, I want to thank you for saying 62%, because I'm actually flattered, because I'm mostly fascinated with the 62 and I'm trying to find a way to exercise the 38.
Right.
And what you just said, in my estimation, had some merit, which would be pushing back on these ideas unrelated to the individuals and helping the people who are sympathizers or not vocal, who are part of the 62%, helping them pick a side.
And understand.
But that to me would be a worthy effort, and more worthy than wasting energy on a MAGA tree in a MAGA forest.
I love where you're at right now, because in that 62%, they see and hear that pushback from us that are in the resistance. They hear and see our pushback on the lies, on
And
the
they
misinformation.
wouldn't, but they wouldn't be cut out. In other words, if I'm talking about blocking the worst offenders, the MAGA trees in the MAGA forest,
right,
they just wouldn't come directly to you, but you would still be seeing engagements from folks who are in the middle.
right, right.
And you could still reinforce that. So you could reinforce those individuals.
But those individuals see the battle and exchanges with MAGA.
But there wouldn't be a battle if you didn't respond. That's what I'm saying. Oh, I see your point. Oh, I just made your point for you.
Yes. Because the 62% sees that exchange.
Okay, I just negated my whole concept.
They see Marlon with his little voice and his little podcast stand up and push back on untruth, lie, and misogyny.
You just did a jujitsu move on what I'm talking about, and I see what you're talking about. You're saying, okay, that may be true, and you may not be providing kindling to them, but they won't go away. They will still be broadcasting, and we still have the people in the middle. And if the people in the middle are not seeing any pushback from, so this would explain why
that then tells the
nobody's
person
attempting to do what I'm suggesting, which again was theory.
that then in that person or individual in the middle then starts to think, wow, okay,
they're like,
okay, is that true? No, it's not true. Melania Trump is not a better first lady than Michelle Obama. It's not true. I don't care if that's your opinion. I don't give a shit what it is. It's not true. It just simply isn't true. We have to. I got a question for you.
Yes, sir.
Social media has been around. You know how long you've been on Twitter. I know how long I've been on Twitter. You know how long we've been on Facebook.
I hope it won't be a question about Twitter, because
I call it family book versus Facebook, because that's all who uses it now is family. We did not have an issue over arguing over what is reality until 2015. Until he came.
Actually, it started in 2012. It became visible in started in 2010 with the release of the iPhone.
Yes.
And it became visible in 2012, and all of the metrics have gone through the roof since 2015.
Since he came down that escalator telling lies.
Well, no. From a social media, independent of Trump standpoint, social media is directly and immediately associated with Instagram, TikTok, Facebook,
Yes.
and
Yes.
phones in the hands of people who were formulating opinions,
Yes.
namely
Yes.
adolescents.
And where we miss the mark in Target, and I mean I'm not going to use that. I was almost going to use my new word that I shared with you before we came on air, but I'm not going to use that. I'm not going to use. Sorry, it's
From your
inside joke.
gaming community, yeah.
Yes, it's inside joke. I apologize, guys, but I'm not.
But you're allowed to use off-color words here.
Yeah. I'm just not going to use that today. But what's Zuckerberg? This is where they all miss the target, right? And we have to bear the brunt of our behavior and our what we have done. We have to own that. With the zeal and zest and everything that's centered around the birth of social media, no one took a millisecond to say, we have to figure out a way. If we're going to give everybody the ability to be a publisher from the palm of their hand, we have to figure out a way to address the fact that people just wanted to be that publisher, right? And I don't care where the source came from. I'm just going to push it out there because I want to be the first to push it out there. And that to me was the birth of the death of social media. Because
so you're saying the race to be the first.
Yes. Was
irrespective of what it is.
Irrespective of what it is.
And then once you had multiple people arriving simultaneously, then you had to put another twist on it, which was the most sensational.
It exists today. I see people post stuff today, and I'm like, are you even looking at the origin of what you're posting?
Well, thank God there's not going to be any AI generation.
Jack and Dave's basement.com is not a reliable news source.
Whose basement?
Jack and Dave's basement.com. Which is where they pull that from, and then they post it as fact. No.
Well, Twitter was actually doing better than they are now.
Much better than they are now. Much better than they are now.
You could actually have at least people with a large distribution get caught from behind, and
yes,
you would put it under a tab,
yes.
right? And you would say this is not factual. That's all gone, right?
That's all history now.
And I think Facebook experimented with that. I don't know.
Facebook. Oh God.
I know nothing about Facebook.
I have it up. It's so funny because I belong to a number of groups on Facebook that deal with Washington, D.C., my high school. There's a group that I belong to that was created by one of my Canadian neighbors who I love. I absolutely love her. And I responded to a post in the group that she put up today, and I got to paraphrase. She was like, "Oh my God, where have you been? It's good to hear from you." And I'm like, "I know I haven't been visible for some time. That doesn't mean I don't still miss and love you, because I both are still applicable. I miss you and I love you. You're my neighbor to the north, and it's good to come out of the shadows and be visible on our group page." I can't even remember what the post was about, but obviously, I remember it was a question. Would you, if you had a free vacation to Hawaii, would you take the last boss that you worked for with you? And I put the curse word emoji, no, in all caps with exclamation points.
I've only worked for myself since 1995.
Lucky you.
Yeah, I got fired at the tail end of 94.
And you know the last company I worked for, and you know my response was appropriate.
No need to mention.
No names.
No need.
No names. I keep names until I have to out of it.
They do.
But here's what I
About an
do.
hour.
This is the primary use of Facebook for me,
Ah.
because I am so horrible. Facebook serves one key purpose for Marlon Taylor.
Namely,
It is my reminder of birthdays. So when I go to Facebook every day, I see whose birthday it is, and I wish them a happy birthday.
I'll admit the only birthdays that I pay attention to are my brothers and sisters.
I do that because when my birthday comes up, my feed from people I haven't talked to or heard from, my feed gets littered with birthday wishes. So, and I
You're
take
gonna get one for me because I don't have any reminders.
I take extreme pride in responding to each and every birthday wish.
Hey.
This drives Ellen crazy because Ellen is old school. My better half is old school. So she's still, God bless her, she goes out, she buys cards, and she mails people cards for their birthday.
Oh, my wife does that too.
And when she doesn't get that in return, I go, honey, you got to go on Facebook to get all your birthday wishes.
I used to wish my parents a happy birthday. So
I make it a point on my birthday, and on average, I probably get, on average every year, I probably get north of 250 birthday wishes on Facebook. Sweet. And I try and go in and respond. Now, like most people,
from my brother and my sister.
Most people, and I do this too, most people, rather than responding to individual, and I've called out that I try, and so if I've missed you, I'm sorry, I'll get to you, but I try and take the effort to respond to each and everybody who does me a birthday post. Most people will come out the next day, and I do this too, and they do a blanket thank you to everybody who wished them well, birthday wishes, so on and so forth. And I do that too, but I try and make it a point to respond to each and every individual that takes the time to wish an old codger like me a happy birthday. I'll do it again in July of this year.
The old codger. Hey, I have a question.
That's the only reason I use Facebook, dude.
All right, so, he went into an alternate dimension. I just returned from Canada.
I'm stuck at the border.
Yeah, Galdon.
I'm stuck at the border.
So you don't know my birthday, and don't look. Point is, you don't know.
Not off the top of my head.
If you did know off the top of your head, it would be an incredible burden because I don't know yours.
No, I don't.
I just know you old, bitch.
Yes, that I do know.
Just by happenstance, you brought up birthdays, right?
Uh-huh.
This is completely by happenstance. I know that today is my good friend Matt's birthday.
All right. Happy birthday, Matt.
Shout out to Matt.
Happy birthday.
And I'm trying to get him to join us at some point. Did I tell you about Matt?
I'd welcome him. No.
Matt is traveling across
the
United States until he goes and travels across Europe.
Yes, you did.
So he is just freewheeling around the U.S. and
awesome.
Having a great time. Yeah.
Awesome. One of my Twitter followers is doing that. She's living in a converted school bus.
Does she drive it?
Yes.
Oh, she's traveling in her school bus.
She literally is a nomad.
Well, he's doing it a little bit differently. He rents Airbnb. Of course, he has to work, so he has to work every day. So he actually rents really nice places. Nice places.
My Twitter follower
and then hangs out there for a period of time.
My Twitter follower is very self-sufficient, and she lives and goes all over the country.
Where does she park it?
I would assume like truck drivers.
School.
I would assume like truck drivers, she parks wherever they
park in between these two buses. Nobody will know I'm here.
Nobody will know, right?
And then tomorrow morning when somebody's like,
exactly.
Who was that school bus?
I applaud that, man. It reminds me.
I do, but I'm not jealous.
No.
I'm happy for him because it's an improvement on his prior situation.
Yeah.
Um,
It,
and there's some, it's like romantic,
yeah.
but I wouldn't want to give up what I have to go to that. If I lost what I had, then I would want to go to that.
It harkens me back. I do know what you mean. It for me, it harkens me back to my childhood, where and I come from that generation where you took trips. You took trips. Um, my mother is from Lynchburg, Virginia. We talked about this on Family Zoom
By the
call.
way, my wife and my stepdaughter are in Middleburg right now,
Oh, I know Middleburg.
and it's afternoon, so I'm sure they're drinking.
I would hope so. We talk about this on our family Zoom calls a couple of times with my mother's brother, still alive, Edgar. And I'm calling out. I'm giving a shout out to brother Ed.
Edgar,
91 years old.
sweet mother of
Edgar, on one of the family trips, we drove an RV down to Lynchburg to my grandfather's house. And to get to my grandfather's house, it's kind of in the mountain. And it's hard to call this a mountain, but lack of a better description, it is. And there's a private road to get to his house. It's one lane, in and out. And so it's very narrow. Can you imagine driving an RV on a very narrow gravel road on the mountainside?
I can. I've driven RVs. We drove RVs across the Dakotas. They were 28 feet long. My brother and I, each of us was driving a 28-foot RV. We didn't exactly race, but we did some,
that takes some kahunas. And as a young kid, I'm like, man, that takes kahunas to do. But we used to do family trips all the time, and I miss that. I miss, you were children, you're only heard from when spoken to. Sit in the back, shut up, and we're going on a trip, and you're going to enjoy it.
I got one for you. So I remember this. This is from a trip. We're driving along somewhere out west, like hours. Anyway, so my dad, who's driving, obviously, he passes a car and he does it across a double yellow line.
Oof.
And I said, while we were in the other lane, we were out in the middle of nowhere. While we were in the other lane, I said, "Hey, Dad, it's a double yellow line. You can't go back." And he just, without skipping a beat, he goes, "You've been waiting a long time to say that, haven't you?" And I was like, I was probably like 12 or something. Yeah. You've been waiting a long time to say that, haven't you?
Yes.
Yes, Dad.
I miss, I'm blessed. We're both blessed to come up the way we did. My father's town is a town in Virginia that's not even on the map. Accomack, Virginia, I believe. And we used to have the greatest family reunion.
I think I've seen it on the map.
We used to have the greatest family reunions down there, man. And it was just family, food, fun, just come together, and just it was just love. It's the best way I can describe it. I had two of my first cousins were in a motorcycle gang. So when the motorcycle gang showed up, it went to a whole nother level. They from Delaware area. I miss those, man.
I love talking to you. Then we did this, then we did this, and then my cousin showed up with her motorcycle.
And a motor, just huge 100 Harley motorcycle gang, man. And when you think Marlon Taylor, what? Marlon's part of has roots to a Harley motorcycle gang? Yes, I did.
I'm sorry, I am not that fascinated.
All
right. Well, listen, we're coming up on an hour. I want to thank you.
Are we at an hour?
My theory, which of course was a theory based on not interacting with social media, and I actually am going to abandon the whole thing I've already.
No. Let me put a bow on that. Again, there are some.
That made a lot of sense, actually.
There are some, when you expose what I commonly refer to as the IQ of a box of crayons, then I immediately block you because you don't deserve time, energy, and oxygen.
You're saying they're so obviously ignorant, they do less damage.
They do less damage. They don't have the same platform, so I don't care. Go away, go live in your trailer and do whatever you need to do. My nemesis is different because he has a greater reach. And because of that greater reach, I want people to know that no, we do not accept your lies. We do not accept your bullshit. We do not accept your misogyny. And we certainly don't accept your opinion that Melania was a better first lady than Michelle Obama, who is still doing more now today than Melania ever did in her 4 years in the White House.
Boom. There. That's it. I agree with you. That's a very good point. All right. So are you going to take us out?
I'm going to take us out. We're
That's a good one
on
to close on.
It's a good one to close on. We're on the long holiday weekend. I know you're going to be at the pool. I know I'm going to be putting together lawn furniture and doing whatever it is we're going to do. I just follow directions. Hey, happy Memorial Day weekend to all those who served and are no longer with us. Thank you. Heavenly thank you. To all those still active serving, we thank you for providing us the world in which we live.
Amen.
Happy Memorial Day weekend. Find us, love us, like us, talk about us, comment to us, but most of all, please, 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 we need it. Subscribe to us.
And on that note,
we love you all. Have a great Memorial Day weekend.
I love you, Marlon.
Love you too, brother.
Bye.
Bye.